You're listening to Balanced Alignment, Ayurveda Today, where we delve into the core of today's health and wellness landscape through the lens of Ayurveda, an ancient Indian science of medicine. This beautiful science is natural, holistic, and places the emphasis on enhancing our vitality today. Our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Swadasya swastya rakshanam, aturasya vigara prashamanam. To maintain the health and longevity of the healthy and to cure the sick. These are the fundamental aims of Ayurveda, and balanced alignment was created to manifest these aims. Welcome to the show.
So today I have the pleasure of speaking with my friend and colleague, Miss Ali Spruck. She is a certified Ayurvedic practitioner. She is a doula. She is a yoga teacher. I believe she is a mental health counselor. She is many, many things, and I'm very excited to have her on today. Welcome, Ali.
Thanks. Good to be here. My first podcast.
Welcome to the podcast world.
Thank you. So bear with me.
Okay, it's very fun. It's very exciting. So today we are talking about a few different things, I'm sure, and we're talking about the power of visualization.
Mhm.
Some of the mind-body connection points that is available there. So I'd love for you to take us further. What's possible in the world of visualizations?
Oh my gosh. Dare I say everything is possible in the world of visualization. Imagery, another thing we could call it, in Western world, allopathy. It's known as the language of the unconscious mind. Um, I think that Ayurveda might say something different. I think that we believe that it would be the conscious mind because we're talking about really the five senses when we're using imagery. Um, I don't even know where to start. I have so much on the tip of my tongue that I'm ready to tell you. So I don't know if you want me to just like go into it.
Yeah, start us,
Yeah.
start us from the beginning.
From
Um,
the beginning. Okay.
mhm.
So, I mean, in terms of, I think why we settled on visualization and imagery for the topic of this podcast is because it has so much to do with our ability to self heal, to move through whatever it is we're working through, be it something more mild, like day to day small stressors, or something really big, like cancer. Um, I believe, and I think Ayurveda would back me on this, that imagery has so much to do with our ability to move through these things, and very literally, because when we bring a visualization or an image or a thought to mind, we are the part of our brain that's connected with the sense that's related to that image lights up just as if it were to light up if we were to physically do something. So it's almost like we are doing the thing by just imagining that thing, perhaps not as potent a reaction in our body, but there are reactions. And in terms of self healing, which is the nature of Ayurveda. Ayurveda is here for us as a self healing system of medicine. It's I think one of the most empowering systems of medicine that I've been exposed to. But, you know, using that imagery as a tool for self-healing, your body changes when you start to think differently. I think maybe the best way to just go all in together here is to do an exercise.
Mm.
Would you be open to that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So, listeners, viewers, if you want to join in, you can. So I'll guide you through this, Daryl. Um, and I'm not like an expert, an imagery expert or anything, but this is just a super small example of what imagining something using your sensory organs can have a shift on your body. So, Daryl, and anyone who's listening, go ahead and sit down if you're not already. Close your eyes if you're comfortable, if you feel safe. And first and foremost, when we're working with imagery as a tool for self-healing, we have to be relaxed. So let your face be soft, all the muscles in your face relaxed. Start to make your belly soft with your breath, inhaling and exhaling. Feel the surface that you're sitting on. Feel your feet on the floor. And let whatever thoughts come and go. And I want you to imagine that you are in a kitchen. And it can be a kitchen that you know, it can be your kitchen, it can be a kitchen that you just constructed in your mind, your dream kitchen. But be in a kitchen. What does it look like? What colors do you see? What does it feel like to be there? And now imagine that you are standing in front of a cutting board. You're at the counter. There's a wooden cutting board in front of you. And on the cutting board is a lemon. And so you can pick up the lemon, feel it, touch it with your hands. How big is it? How heavy is it? What does the skin feel like? The texture? Maybe you even bring it up to your nose and take a deep breath. Inhale the fragrance. And then you can put it back down on the cutting board, and there's a knife there. So you take the knife, you make one big slice down the center of this lemon. And then you take one half of that lemon and you cut it in half again. Then quarter pieces. And again, feel the piece of this lemon. You just cut it. You can, maybe it's dripping on you. A really juicy lemon. If you had a cut, it would sting. And you bring that quarter piece of lemon up toward your mouth. You take a big bite, your teeth falling into the skin, the flesh, the inside of the lemon. And what's happening? What's happening in your mouth? What's happening to your face? Are you salivating? Can you taste it? Maybe, maybe not. Bring the lemon back down. Take a few breaths. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes again. So I don't know what your experience was, Daryl. If you felt a puckering sensation, if you felt more saliva being produced, if you didn't, that's totally fine and normal. But if you did, those are two actions that are governed by our autonomic nervous system. Two small actions that we can concretely feel physically happening in our body. Yeah. And that's a simple guided imagery of cutting a lemon. So if we can experience physical sensations from a 3-minute guided imagery journey of cutting a lemon in half, imagine the physical reactions, the immune system reactions, the adrenal stress response reactions that can happen. And in fact, there have been so many studies where, for example, they've taken cancer patients who are going through chemotherapy and they'll use imagery to help stave off some of the nausea, even vomiting that they might experience. Because with imagery, you can, I don't like to say control, but you can influence the faculties that your body, these reactions that your body starts to create. It can lower blood pressure, it can lower heart rate. So I don't know if you want to share if you experienced anything from that or.
Yeah, so I started off in my kitchen because you were like, start off in the kitchen. So I started off in the kitchen. And then you said, maybe it's one you just made up in your mind. And so then I moved. I immediately transferred to my dream kitchen, which is what you said. And my dream kitchen is outside. I have a dream of, being barefoot on the grass and cooking there. And so I experienced a lot of peace during that. And, we're okay, I've got my lemon, I've got it on the cutting board. Um, I felt that. I felt as if I were there. I felt as if I were outside, warm, standing with my feet on the grass, and I did feel I did feel the juice from the lemon. And there was a bit of salivation. I don't think I would have noticed it, but when
Mm.
you mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, like there is some.
Yeah, some people experience it a lot. Some people, they're like, oh, I wouldn't have noticed, but yeah, I guess I do feel it, a little more in front of my teeth. And that's just such a small, such a simple example to show what kind of changes can take place in our physical body. And of course, our thoughts and imagery can influence emotions as well. So it's not all physical. We're psychosomatic beings. Um, so it has a huge effect on our ability to move through, whatever it is that we're carrying with us, be it a mental, emotional affliction or something chronic, even, you know, IBS, extremely connected, we know, to the vagus nerve, to our mental state. In Ayurveda, we would potentially call it grahani, depending on the symptoms.
It makes sense. Like it seems like everything is a two-way street, and if I go outside and I walk, in the forest, then that has a beneficial effect on my mind.
Mhm.
And so, why wouldn't it make sense that doing that in my mind would have the same effect? Because really, how do I know that the effect that I'm gaining from walking in the forest is one from the external walk, or it's just the fact that it's implanting that into my mind? And it seems like visualization and imagery, what you're referring to, is suggesting the latter.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly transport ourselves to to a different reality almost. I mean, we do it all the time. Everything, I would argue, outside of us is virtual reality. Our reality is what's inside of us. And we're always being subjected to and inundated with information from this virtual reality that becomes true, becomes our truth. I mean, there are many of us, myself included, who have social media platforms and we just get sucked into this blue light reality, right? And that becomes very real and very, I can feel it in my mind, in my body. Maybe I read something distressing and my heart starts to beat a little bit faster. Our reality can transform depending on what we allow to be our reality, right? So we absolutely can create an environment that we want to be there. I don't say that lightly. I think that it does take practice and intention to be able to surrender to that, but it is a tool for us, and especially in terms of chronic pain, illness, disease, I think it's underrated and so beneficial because it takes such a mental toll on you to know the reality of what you might be going through. I'm sure you've had clients who are affected mentally by what they're going through, whether they have diabetes or, just a broken ankle. I mean, an athlete with a broken ankle. Have you ever seen someone with such duress? Like they want to go and be active. And that I do find that to be a really largely missing component of our healing health paradigm is this intrinsic, okay, how can I create a reality that works for me and that assists in my healing process?
Mm. Can you share with us how you got into imagery?
Yeah, um I think I got lucky because my mom worked in the therapy field, so she had kind of always reminded me that that's there. Um, and it didn't really stick. I was the classic daughter of a therapist who was like, "Yeah, okay, mom, I got it," but that doesn't work. And it wasn't really until my own journey. um, I went through cancer, and um, I honestly think it was just a yoga class. Like it wasn't a super profound, like I didn't read anything, or I had read lots of things about it, but it didn't stick. It didn't click, and it didn't feel like anything. And I was in a yoga class, and the teacher said something. I think the exact mantra, because I took it as my own, was, and she didn't know anything about what I was going through. This was a general idea as a mantra. Um, my immune system works perfectly. I am healthy and strong. And to breathe that in on an inhale and to breathe that out on an exhale. And I just was like, she's talking to me. Like, how did she know? And I just began to use that as an everyday mantra. And I guess out of my own um, experiment with it, I saw a difference, not necessarily in my health right away, but in my mental health very soon after. Just the idea that I'm starting to believe this. Okay, like I don't know if anything's happening differently in my body, but just to have hope. I mean, hope is the antidote to depression. Um, you know, and so to have something to just say, okay, I choose to believe this, even if it's total crap. I believe this. And I started working with an Ayurvedic doctor, and a woman who she was trained in shamanism in Peru, and a traditional Chinese medicine therapist, and we all kind of like created this, going back to, yeah, you have to believe it, you have to trust that what you're doing is working, because if you don't believe it at a cellular level at some place in your body, there you can't have change. If you can't, neuroplasticity, really, the shape of your brain literally changes with every word that you hear, every conversation you have. So you do have to, you know, I think you have to have something that you believe in, or that you trust, or that you can, a mantra that just resonates with you to inspire that change. I think that is, I think it has to be there. I don't know. I'm not the expert on that, but I feel that it does.
Why?
It's a good question. Why? And maybe just from my own experience, I suppose we're all different, but we are psychosomatic beings. I don't necessarily feel like you can heal in one place. You know, sure, maybe you do have, you know, gosh, I don't know, you cut your arm, and it hurt really bad, and physically it's healing. But we also have subtle energetic channels working in our body that are connected to our mind and our thoughts and our emotions. And so sure, maybe the skin healed up, and maybe you have a scar, maybe you don't. But there could still be a subtle energetic blockage if, you know, if whatever occurred with that, say it was an accident, how you cut your arm, maybe there was some trauma around that accident. So the body healed, but maybe you didn't heal from from that experience.
Mm.
Whatever happened that stuck. I feel that there, you know, I think you said it maybe earlier, that we are so connected. How could we have, is it the mind? Is it walking through the forest and having that external and, endogenous experience of, oh, this is happening to me, so I'm happy, or is your mind recognizing those senses were enjoyable, and now I'm feeling that, and I could create that. I could go to my outdoor kitchen with my feet in the grass on a summer day and feel that too. So I don't know, but I think it's all connected. And there's proof of that just in these little exercises where we see change happening, right?
Wow. You know, when you were sharing your story, I actually started to tear up.
Mm,
So thank you for sharing
yeah,
that. That's really powerful.
yeah, thank you.
And so, how do you think the everyday person can make use of this knowledge that you're sharing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, you know, I recognize that it is a practice to do something, like incorporate imagery or visualization into your everyday, your ritual. I think you don't even have to start necessarily with as it pertains to your health or, trying to get your body to lower your heart rate if you're someone with anxiety or something like that. Don't even start big. Start small. If journaling is something that's in your daily practice, start with that. Start by creating a dreamscape, a dream life, a dream vision, whatever it is. Just something that brings you joy that you can write freedom without form. It doesn't have to be anything that could ever possibly be true in your mind. You could just say, what's my idea of a perfect day? Maybe I'm not even in the place for me to feel like I could have my perfect day, but what does that look like? And just start to write. Start to write until you feel like excited about something. Like I just created this dream day. This was so exciting. Because when we start to put things out into the world, whether we say it to ourselves in our head, get it out on paper, say it to a friend, we're more likely, our brain is more likely to search for patterns to make that happen. So not necessarily if you wrote, I'm going to make $1 million, your brain isn't going to maybe like figure out the solution that day to your problem of not having $1 million, but it will start to work in ways in which, okay, I want to make $1 million, which means I want wealth, monetary wealth. I'm going to be more open to these opportunities where I can go out and make money. Whereas maybe I wouldn't be before. If in my mind, or I wrote down, or I said out loud, I'm never going to make $1 million. Never. Your mind will say, okay, so she's never going to make $1 million. So there were some opportunities that we scanned in our peripheries where we could have an opportunity to make some money, but we're not doing that because we're not going to make $1 million. Our brains are extremely smart, smarter than we give them credit for. Our bodies are extremely smart. And so just something so simple like that. I mean, don't even bring your health into it if that feels too big or too, like too much pressure. Start with something small. And you don't have to journal, but I think journaling is a nice way to kind of to see it's actionable. It for people that are very pragmatic and like to see something and maybe check the box, you can do that. Or yeah, say it to yourself. But I recognize that it's a practice to start to bring imagery into your life. Could also work with a mantra like I did. I didn't work with imagery prior to that mantra coming into my life. That was the thing that it resonated with me. And so I started to repeat that. But I think there's lots of different entry points into how we can start working with it.
How soon after your diagnosis did you go to that yoga class?
I think I went maybe 2 months after. Yeah. And it really did shift my mindset. I mean, it really was, I think for me, it was just that moment. I think some of us just have moments in life where you're meant to be there at that time. And for me, it really did. It just clicked. It clicked for me. And it felt like, okay, this was a message. Like, how uncanny that I'm feeling kind of mopey about everything that I'm going through. And to hear this, and she doesn't know, but that really affected me in a good way. Yeah.
And how long was your journey until you were cancer free?
After that point, only 8 months. And I say only because if you know or have experienced cancer in any form, any variety, you know that it can be long. And I was expecting it to be long. I was expecting it to be really long. Um, and I was shocked when I went to the appointment, that they told me that I was totally clear. And they were shocked. They were like confused. They were like, this isn't, great. We're so happy for you, but this isn't supposed to happen. And I was like, whoa. Yeah, that's Ayurveda for you.
Wow. It really illuminates in such a beautiful, like personal, real, relevant way. Something that's I've been experiencing and thinking about as well, which is I've been thinking about the conventional medicine versus Ayurvedic medicine.
Hmm.
And and one of the things that started to come up is that to oversimplify, from a conventional medical standpoint, they take the view that the body is broken, that the body's not working, it's broken and we need to come in and fix it. We need to make a chemical, we need to make a drug that comes in and fixes your problem. Whereas Ayurveda says that your body is working perfectly. The symptom that you're experiencing is a cue to the problem. And so we need to follow that cue. That symptom is a trailhead. So we're going to follow that down to the root, to the core, and then we're going to figure out what's going on and we're going to treat from there.
Hmm.
And so you said, my immunity works perfectly. I am strong and healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's another, you know, foundation of Ayurveda is that we do believe that our immune systems work perfectly until they don't. Something comes out of whack, right? But no one is excluded from this vision of wholeness and perfection, for lack of a much better word that exists out there. But there's such an idea that we are incapable of of being healthy and of seeing progress if not for modern eyes on our, modern medical eyes on our bodies, and that's just not true. And I absolutely don't want to make any mistake. I am not saying, I don't think you're saying that allopathy is not remarkable and necessary for so many reasons. But yeah, that we have been sold an idea that we don't really know how to take care of ourselves, and that our immune systems, our brains, our nervous systems don't really know what they're doing. And so we need a lot of help to get us to know what we're supposed to be doing, or we need pharmaceuticals to help make things work or suppress things. And that's just not true. So I'll say it again. Our brains are so smart. Our bodies are so smart. Our nervous systems are immaculate. They are doing what we are feeding them, um, which is why there's so much anxiety and depression and, a lot of mental afflictions. This is, I haven't lived in other centuries, but I think this one's a really hard one because we have so much access to everything. We have a lot less nature, even for those of us who really strive to make nature, you know, a partner in our lives and have a relationship with it. It's still not what it was hundreds of years ago, right? I mean, we're indoors a lot. We are on screens a lot. We're sitting a lot. And we're being told that we're not working properly. And you're told as a child, oh, you have a sore throat, you have this, you need to go see a doctor. There's something wrong with you with these things happening. Also not true. People have gotten colds and, illness. I mean, that's a whole nother topic, but it affects our confidence, our ability to trust in ourselves, to trust that we have everything inside of it. Everything you were born with is was working perfectly when you were born. And you can trust it. We have control centers in our brain that give all sorts of signals to let you know when things are wrong. And it's just a lack of connection to that.
With the mental afflictions, especially, I feel like that's a really good example because it's so easy. I mean, the human mind, like we're already pretty self-critical. We're all our own worst critics, and with anxiety and depression, it's just so natural to be like, man, I just suck. I'm just broken. I just don't work because I'm feeling anxious and I'm feeling depressed.
It's so natural. And I think that also feeling those feelings, I think those are exacerbated by the world that we live in, but they've also always been present because humans are so complex and our relationship to existence is very complex for many of us. And if we go back in time, we can look at Greek mythology and they were questioning life, right? I mean, there was anxiety and depression present in those myths. They're asking, what am I? Why am I here? So and in that way, we can really look at anxiety, depression, these mental afflictions. That's nothing wrong with you. Yes, surely they can become more severe, more chronic, and again, especially because of our environment, I think. The environment that we have today, it's so much different than it was before. But I do think that that's another thing we tend to say to ourselves, there's something wrong with me, I'm messed up, I, it's not right, I have all of these thoughts. I think most of us, and I don't want to belittle or, you know, anyone's experience with having bigger emotions or feelings and questions and whether it is depression or anxiety or bipolar or whatever it is on the spectrum that you experience, that's very real, but it's also not an illness to have questions and to feel emotions and to feel a broad spectrum of those emotions. When it becomes an issue is, of course, when our nervous systems are no longer regulated and we can't come back into a grounded space from after feeling those emotions, or if we're unable to feel anything, we've kind of shut off that valve to being able to experience the spectrum of what's occurring inside of us.
Mm. So it's like inflammation. Like a little bit of inflammation is good. Acute inflammation is good, but chronic over and over again inflammation is a problem.
Yeah, I absolutely, I think so. I think that's a fair analogy.
Yeah, I love also how well you're illuminating the difference, which it is all the difference in the world. The idea that my anxiety is signaling something real and that there's something there for me to process and do about it versus my anxiety is an indication that I'm broken. I mean, on one hand, you have here is an issue here that I am empowered to do something about, right? I can do something about that. And on the other hand, you just have, well, I'm broken. I can't do anything about that. And it's
Yeah,
just all the difference in the world.
yeah. And I think so many of us, myself included at times, feel that the latter of there's something wrong with me. I feel such intense emotions, whether it be grief or fear or, you know, and it's just, you really feel like something's wrong with you. Like, like you need to seek, and sometimes you do need to seek counseling, and that's wonderful. And we should all talk to somebody. But to feel that you need an outside, be it a pill or, you know, some sort of more intense therapy. I don't mean to say anything negative about any of those things. There's a time and a place for everything on our healing journey. And as long as we are the autonomous, decision maker about what's going to be best for us, then that's great. But just we're very quick to feel like we are broken, like you said, broken. I think a lot of people would resonate with that word. Um, and and that's also not true. There was a great Alan Watts quote, and I will not say it word for word perfectly, so bear with me, but it was something to the effect of when I allow myself to feel anxiety, I am totally butchering it right now, but it's something along these lines. When I allow myself to feel anxiety, I give myself permission to to feel less anxiety because I'm feeling it. And the same goes for grief. That's in a nutshell the gist of his quote. But it's
Mhm.
just saying, when I recognize it, I accept it, and I say, okay, you're there. I actually feel it less. I experience it less than when I look at it from this outside perspective of this thing is happening to me. Okay, crap, I need to do something about it. I need to get rid of it. This is not good. This is not normal. I need to figure out all the ways in which I can get the anxiety to go rather than, okay, it's here. Okay, you live here. You live with me. All right, great. What do you have to say? And by facing it head on and saying, okay, great, let's shake hands. Come in. You give it permission to relax a little bit. And you give it permission to release a little bit.
One of the most effective um, emotional quelling things for me in my life is to have that actual conversation out loud with myself.
I
You know,
love that.
oh yeah, like when I'm feeling anxious, I've done it. I mean, multiple times. I've done this so many times. I'd be like, "All right, buddy. Okay, you're feeling kind of scared. Like that's okay.
Mhm.
What's going on? What are you afraid of?" And I'll just start talking. I'll be like, "Well, I'm going to give this presentation, and what if I'm an idiot? Like, what if I say something stupid? And I just start having the conversation, and it's amazing how well that goes and how
Yeah.
quickly I will tap into the different voices, the different sub
Yep.
personalities that I am, and they'll have a pretty sophisticated dialogue, and in the end, I feel immensely better. Typically, I come to a point of resolution and agreement where both sides are like, okay.
Yeah. And that's actually a really well-known technique in the modern psychology world is to have, someone who might be experiencing it could be absolutely anything. It could be interpersonal relationship struggles. It could be inner conflict. It could be anything. Your health. And to personify that, give that an identity. And this is more of like a journaling prompt. But if it is your anxiety or your stress or your fear about this public speaking, okay, personify that fear of public speaking. Say, okay, write down a question. What do you want from me? Fear of public speaking. What are you trying to get out of me? And just write. For you, it's speaking out loud. For some people, I do notice it's harder for them to kind of like get into that narrative with themselves. And so to write, it just you kind of have to, your hand has to catch up with your mind. It gives you a minute to pause. And so to just write. Okay, what do you want from me? All right, just write. Don't think about it. Just write. And if it feels silly and nothing comes, that's fine. Still, just write. Just write. Keep it going and come back to it. Especially if you felt a little bit stifled because you were like, this is weird, I don't know. That's okay. Shelf it, come back to it. Maybe the next day. Again, okay. What do you want from me? Fear of public speaking. What are you trying to tell me? What is happening? And have a conversation with it. And that's actually a really, you know, great tactic to use when you have this stubborn fear or whatever emotion is sitting there that's just like sitting on your chest, and you don't know what to do about it. You don't know where to go with it. Um, to talk to it is a great way to let it move through you. Emotion is energy in motion, which, is kind of what I was saying earlier about there's just so many components. There's a subtle and a physical component to everything that we experience. So we really need to address things holistically, be it Ayurveda or something else.
It makes me think of the thing in Ayurveda where, it says that no, it's always harmful to force like a bodily impulse or
Mm,
instinct, and it's always harmful to like restrain it, like if it wants to come out. And so, just that's something as simple as going to the bathroom, coughing,
yeah,
sneezing, all of those things. It's like you want to do them in time, because if you're forcing them early, that's a problem, and if you're
yeah.
not doing them when they want to be done in time, then that's a problem. And it's literally the exact same thing with the emotions, right? Our
Hmm.
emotions are trying to express themselves. And so if
Yeah,
we're shoving it in, it's the exact same thing. It's just not going to the bathroom when we need to go to the bathroom.
yeah. And all of this is just coming back to establishing that connection with yourself, getting back into a space where you can be really quiet and soft, and just starting awareness. That's all of this, I guess. Maybe we didn't know. The theme of today is just awareness. But it's just getting back into that space of recognizing all of these signals. Our body talks to us in so many ways, in so many languages. Our senses, our bowel movements, our the emotions that come up. It talks to us in so many ways. And so just getting quiet in a carving out space in our lives, in our virtual reality lives, to bring back some awareness, to be connected.
Whew. I think you have a career in podcasting, Allie. You've been
I
sharing
don't
some
know.
incredible wisdom with us. How can our listeners get in contact with you?
They can get in contact with me via the virtual reality. Instagram is great. My Instagram is at Yogini, Yogini underscore gal, GAL.
Okay, beautiful. I'll definitely add that in the description. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic, and I can't wait to have you on again sometime.
Awesome. Thanks, Daryl.